how's it going? This is the Woodsknife Leuku. These are for sale on Varusteleka, a really cool website with lots of cool random stuff on it. And as always, super quick shipping. There weren't any reviews on this knife that I could see on YouTube, so I thought I would do my service to you and check it out. What I found most appealing about the Woodsknife is that it is made in Finland and that it is a very good price. In fact, it's about the same price as a copy of Diablo 4. And unlike Diablo 4, after numerous hours of use, this isn't going to completely rebalance itself and become a different knife. So come with me as we have a look at the Woodsknife Leuku 145 and see if it's any good and have a bit of a play with it. Let's get to it. So the knife is about 6 inches long, 145 millimeters as per the name. It's of a mystery carbon steel, which I'll talk to you about a little bit later, do some testing on. And that is a curly birch handle with a little brass ring separating the handle from the blade. At the end is another piece of wood, sort of sanded back and lined up nice and flush for a nice little look. This is it next to the K-bar, a classic knife. This is the Space Force version, so less classic, more kind of ironically cheesy, and it's a little bit thinner than a K-bar. This is it next to the Buck 119, classic heritage knife once again, and it is also a little bit thinner than the Buck 119. Someone's been shopping at Varusteleka. Here is a Tarava Puko 140. It's a little bit shorter in the blade, but only just. And here it is next to a copy of Diablo 4. Can you guess which of these two things doesn't constantly pester you to spend real-world money on cosmetic bullshit? That's right, it's the Leuku. Great job, Leuku. The knife comes with this pretty basic sheath that fits around your belt just with like a tied piece of leather. So, you know, it works, but it's a very rustic style of sheath to be sure. Which, you know what, if you're into live action role playing, a 19th century bushcrafter, you're going to absolutely love. And to be honest, you can grab it and pull it out two-handed really easily. And you know what, I actually don't dislike it as much as I thought I was going to. It's actually kind of cool. Beautiful. So the Woodsknife comes in a nondescript carbon steel, which is, as you remember from my last video, a bit of a red flag when you're buying a knife. However, the fact that it is made in Finland and generally the site Tarava sources knives that are economical and in good basic carbon steels, I'm going to hope that it actually still performs all right. And a basic carbon steel could be anything from SK5 to even 80 CRV2, which is probably slightly more advanced than a lot of the true basic carbon steels. Could just be 1095, could be a 1060 style, who knows? Could be a spring steel. So we're going to do a quick edge retention test to get some twisted style rope and see how long it cuts the rope before it no longer slices through a whole sheet of paper just like it did just now. So let's do that, and I might be able to figure out what steel it is over the life of the review. Where's my rope? Ah. That's 50. Feels all right. Cut's really nice. That's for sure. Beautiful. Nice grind. Nice grind, Woodsknife. Like your grind, bruh. That's 50. Bit teary there once again. So 100 cuts through the rope on its factory edge, had to be stropped up a little bit. Let's see, you know, I bet if I get my brilliant little work sharp again. You know what? It's gonna be one of those steels that you'll get it slightly dull and then you'll strop it a few times and it'll be back to normal. So the number was 100, but still feels awesome, you know? So went to 100, stropped it back. Now I've done another 50. I reckon I'll do another 100 really easily. $50, I've got another sheet of paper. Snagging again. So you know what? Does 100, resets slightly with a strop, and then does another 100, resets slightly with a strop. That's the sort of steel you're looking at here. So if you're happy to carry a little thing with you, and you don't want, you don't do any, more severe damage to it, just some gradual dulling, you'll do absolutely fine with a little bit of a medium maintenance kind of knife, methodology to it. So I would say this is a simple carbon steel, like a 1085 or something like that, and that's absolutely fine for a knife. This price, with a nice handle, birchwood handle, made in Finland, kind of almost like a handmade sort of, you feel like someone actually cares about these. It seems how it feels anyway. I approve. I approve of the steel, whatever the steel is. It seems fine for the price. Absolutely. Let's keep testing it. So I took the thing outside. I was a little bit bummed because try as I might, even though the spine felt anglish enough, it simply made pitiful sparks as it comes from the factory, which, you always like your live action role-playing style knife to do some sparks for when you live action role-play a fire. Luckily, with just a little bit of moxie and a $500 bench water-cooled grinding tool, anyone can make their Leuku a fire steel striker, and I was all set once my testicles had redescended from this bloody noise. And now it sparks way better than it did. Still not perfect, but it's definitely something that I will work on. So with regard to the other home knife guy arts, the 6-inch blade makes it a little bit difficult to span like the wider juice bottles when you're doing your slow motion water cuts. And of course, like your 3-litre milk cartons are just absolutely out of the question. Cuts through it well, but don't make that clean cut. 0 out of 10. Nah, but in all seriousness, that's just a bit of fun. This is it next to the Mora Pathfinder knife, which is probably my other like Leuku style knife. And I like this actually a little bit better than the Pathfinder. It's kind of the same dimensions apart from having an inch less blade. This just feels like the kind of knife that you'd have as a Leuku rather than like a more modern, strange Mora type one. And I like the sheath a whole lot better on this one too. This big old Leuku blade, it's a bit of a double-edged thing for, I'm not going to say sword because it's a knife, a bit of a double-edged knife for cutting down, cutting saplings and just chopping. As in, like it chops really well. That blade bites in insanely well to wood, and you can, anything that's like an inch or so wide, it just hacks through immediately. Even working this kind of knotty part is absolutely fine, but the handle is a little bit too short and a little bit wide and a little bit hard to hold onto for like anything bigger than what I'm chopping right now on the screen. So it's kind of one of those things, if you have it around and you just need to quickly like whack off a limb of a tree that's kind of poking out the weird way or something, as I often am inclined to do, like when I shape my trees around my yard, I'll do that from time to time. It's fine for that, but certainly don't use it as like an endurance chopper or as anything that you might perhaps need to consider safety a little bit more, because this thing could fly out of your hand. Possibly. In terms of the handle, you need a big hand for this guy to be comfortable. I've got like a medium to big hand, I would say. If you're like one of those guys with like these massive shovel fingers, you're going to be absolutely fine with this. Even for me, it's slightly on like the girthy side to hold on to for like a long period of time. It's comfortable when I do for like immediate, I've grabbed it and that feels all right. But as I use it for longer and longer, you start to feel like, there's a bit of girth here. My hand is starting to like ache a little bit holding on to this for, minutes at a time of just doing the same repetitive task.
when I do like feather sticking or like just kindling prep with this knife, as you know, is generally one of my main realistic, real world, non-simulated knife uses. Yeah, this guy sort of starts to, as it turns in my hands a little bit, you know, you become a bit more conscious of the grip and whatnot. So just something to think of. If you have a small hand, this is probably not the best Leuku for Yuku.
So the Woodsknife, what do I think of it? I think it's pretty good. It's a 6-inch Scandi grind, which I don't know if that's going to be for everyone. I don't know if everyone needs a 6-inch Scandi grind. Scandis are great for any work where you're leading with the edge. It's one of the best edges like to lead with, to do like thin slicing of wood off, shaving and you know that kind of job. It's bloody fantastic. But Scandi grinds have difficulty passing through things with rigidity to them, or things that sort of hug the blade surface. Cheese, apples, they'll crack apples, cheese will stick to it, potatoes will crack, you know, and this stuff's probably fine for campsite style cooking, but if you're after a real cutting performance, it's good for some things, bad for others. I cut my vinyl pipe with it, which is like a thing I do to test, like, because you need to really push a knife through that often. Yeah, not so great for that, because it just doesn't give enough negative space once the initial surface has been broken. And that's all Scandi grinds, it's not a critique specifically of this knife. This knife in general, for 60 euros, it's about 100 Australian bucks, for like something that seems pretty bespoke, pretty, you know, there's a bit of handmade going on. It's made in Finland, it's not made in like China in a big factory or something. I think it's a pretty good deal. I suspect that each one's going to be slightly different to the other. I read the reviews on the Varusteleka. A couple of people are a bit like ho-hum about it, but look, I've done work with it and it's held together, and well, you know what you're looking at. If this is to your taste, then yeah, it's not junk. It's not going to explode when you batten it or anything like that. It's not going to fail on you. I would be very surprised anyway. This one's held together with me pretty well through about all the different tasks that I would think it's actually for. So pretty good, pretty good. What more is there to say? I like it more than the Mora Pathfinder as a big Leuku style knife. And I think if you're after this sort of knife, going the rustic finish, the rustic sheath, kind of makes it a bit of a character piece in your collection at the very least. So for various reasons, I may not be, you know, carrying this forever. I might just pick this up and use it as a curiosity every now and then. Maybe I'll just leave it somewhere where I might need it, rather than like have it with my knives that I'll choose to carry around. It may well just kind of fall into like a shelf kind of spot of my collection, but it certainly doesn't take anything away from the fact that it's well enough made. It's a cool deal. I like the steel, like this a simple carbon steel obviously seems to just bring itself back with stropping. I like that, that's fine. Not every knife has to be in a super steel, and in fact it's a pretty good way, as long as you use a good basic steel, it's a pretty good way of like keeping the costs low on a knife. So look, overall, you can see this, you know what this is, like, you know if you like this or not, and if you do like this, how it looks, then I think you'll like it enough in hand. Just make sure you've got a little bit of a bigger hand, larger hands, because otherwise this handle can get a bit much. And I mean, you might want to sharpen the spine. You might want to even rough this up with like a file or something, just to add a bit of grip. Two little possibilities, but look, overall, even from the box, seems like a pretty good buy to me. Thanks for watching, gang. See you in the next one. Goodbye.